Hey guys, I hope everybody is having a fantastic day, whether you're checking this out in the morning, in the afternoon, or in the evening. Today I wanted to go through kind of the evolution of my Benchmade collection, where it started, what I think about the different knives in my collection, what I hope to add to the collection, and so forth. This is going to be in no particular order. I thought probably the easiest way to go through it would be, to the best of my memory, the way that I acquired these knives. And the first Benchmade that I brought into the collection was the mini Griptilian with the deployment hole and the Mil Pardue blade. This little knife is the G10 version. So it's G10, it's 20 CV, it is the mini. One of the knives that is missing from this collection, and it's not altogether random, but I am missing a regular size Griptilian, and those knives in my collection are stowed away for Mr. Doug Ritter's knives. I have two RSK MK1s, and then I have one RSK MK2, the mini. But this is my mini Griptilian in G10 20 CV. Great little knife. Axis lock, of course. It does have the Spidey hole, the deployment hole. It's not a hole that I have just an absolute natural feel for. I can get it consistently, but it's just a little bit different than some of the other flickable knives that I have. But that is the deployment method. It does have the Spidey hole. You can two-hand deploy it. You can thumb deploy it. And that was the first Benchmade that made it into my collection. That was the Benchmade Griptilian. After that, I want to say the next knife that I brought in was the mini Benchmade Bugout. This was actually a Smoky Mountain Knives. I guess you'd call it an upgrade. I would say it was a downgrade. It came with Flytanium scales and the original white scales that this particular Bugout was set up with from the factory. White FRN, S30V blade. I put the Sharp by Design, micarta blanket, Mexican blanket micarta scales on them. It really, when I got the knife from Smoky Mountain Knife Works, to backtrack, it had the Flytanium titanium scales on it. Something about those scales was just jacked up, and I could never get them to tune out right. So I went through a couple of different scale renditions from the white FRN that came with it, and then finally settled on these Sharp Dress Knife micarta blanket, Mexican blanket micarta scales. And I just love those scales. Love the little knife. It weighs almost nothing. It is, as we all know by now, very thin blade stock. But that was the second knife Benchmade to come into the collection, and that was the Benchmade Mini Bugout. Guys, all these Benchmades have lifetime warranties. All these Benchmades are made in the USA, and I've heard nothing but good things from the customer service department. The next one that I brought in was a full-size Bugout. This one came in, I want to say, almost 2 years ago around Black Friday. This was the Blade HQ exclusive G10 with a 20 CV blade and the green thumb studs. So that's how this knife started out. It has gone through a couple of different renditions before it settled on its permanent form, maybe adding a backspacer, but right now it's sporting Metin Boss scales that I just adore. This particular Benchmade I adore. It's probably one of my favorite Benchmades and most carried in my collection. It is the full-sized Bugout, the Blade HQ exclusive in 20 CV, adorned with Metin Boss scales. So that was the next one to come in. Believe it or not, guys, I had a Grail early on that was hard for me to get, hard for me to come about, and hard for me to have the cash together. It wasn't my comfort zone in buying knives at the time, but that is the old school OG Benchmade 940. Osborne Designs, fantastic action, S30V blade, one of the thicker blades, kind of a multi-purpose blade, I'd call it, from a good cutter to a light prior to according to Mr. Osborne himself, to use it to clean out horseshoes and horse hooves. So this knife is one that I really enjoy. It's one that I was absolutely just stoked to get in. I had it ordered. It went missing for like 2 weeks from Knife Works. It wasn't their fault. It was around Black Holidays. I'm dealing with that now with some knives that I ordered. It happens every time of the year, guys. But this is the OG 940, and it is just an awesome knife. I love it. It's not one I plan to rescale because I like the aluminum scales. I like the OG look. So much so that when they finally came out with the 945 with the OG aluminum scales, this is actually the first production run of these little guys in 20 CV. I could not pass up on it. It's the mini version of the Benchmade 940. I love this little knife. It fits my hand just perfectly. It's a delight to carry. It's a delight to fidget with. You can reverse flick it. It's got thumb studs, so you can easily thumb stud it. You can axis lock dance it if you want to, which I never would. But just a great little knife. Benchmade 945. I was kind of hesitant on this little knife until it came out in this particular version, and I jumped all over it and gobbled it up. Then I was at St. Nick's Knives, my local St. Nick's Knives, and came across a Benchmade that I wasn't altogether familiar with. It was the Benchmade Mini Loco. What drew my attention to it was the shape of the knife, the beefiness of the knife, and of course the deployment hole. Guys, this knife, in terms of build quality, beefiness, meatiness, if I was going to be stuck on a desert island with one Benchmade, which would it be? It would be the Mini Loco. Maybe. I might have a footnote to that here in just a second. But the Mini Loco is a fantastic knife, has super thick blade stock, has a fantastic handle. The way this thing just falls into the palm of your hand and gives you multiple different grip angles depending on what type of cuts you're going to be doing. This is also a first production S30V. The Mini Loco had been out for a long time, but guys, I bought this new at St. Nick's a little over a year ago, and that just shows how unpopular this now discontinued knife was. And I guess maybe it's because it is a little beefier. I cannot imagine why this knife or its big brother would not have been one that stayed in the rotation and stayed a popular knife, because I really do love it. That is the Benchmade Beefy Mini Loco. Then the reason there's a footnote to that, if I was going to be stuck on a desert island with just one Benchmade to get me through, this here is the Benchmade Mini Adamas with Advanced Weapons Technologies aluminum scales to get rid of the speed holes. This is a crew wear version, so now it's crew wear in aluminum. The Mini Adamas is probably one of the hardest built Benchmades currently in production, currently in my collection. Axis lock, heavy jimping, very, very stable platform, crew wear blade steel. Just a work knife, guys. And the Advanced Weapons Technology scales were not something that I needed. They were something that I did want to mod this knife because I was not crazy about the speed holes on the original Adamas. Didn't have a problem with them. It did not stop me from buying it. I did not know these scales were available when I found it. But in terms of hard use Benchmades, I don't have the full size Adamas. It's a little bigger than my needs. But this Mini Adamas is not a mini by any other standards. For example, if you look at the Mini Adamas next to the Mini Bugout, it's a full-size knife. The Adamas, that is. So that was the next one that I brought into my collection. This is the one, depending on if I was stuck on a desert island and I was going to have to use it for everything, including sticking it through car doors, I would probably go with the Benchmade Adamas as my one and done for that particular purpose. Now, if my particular purpose was to spend that knife's time in the office and only use it as a white collar knife, I might be tempted to choose the Benchmade Valet. This is a knife I did not know existed. A good brother of ours in the community, who's a personal friend of mine who lives here locally in the area, hooked me up with this little knife, made it available to me because it was smaller, Brother Dark Gravity, and we either worked out a trade or a buy. I forget how I came into possession of this little Valet, except for that it came from one of my best friends and brother, Dark Gravity. It is an M390, guys, G10, little gentleman's carry, has a fantastic pocket clip that I've not seen on Benchmade before, goes in and out of pocket very easily, axis lock, thumb stud deployment. You can thumb flick it, you can middle finger flick it, and it is a light, small. When we talk about size comparisons, it's going to be closer in size to the mini Bugout. It might not be quite as thin this way, but it's not going to be as tall this way because it is a small folder. So that is the Benchmade Valet, probably my number one gentleman's folder between this, of course, the mini Bugout and the 945. But just a great little knife, one that I wouldn't be made aware of and wouldn't have in my collection if it wasn't for good friends, which is to me what makes this community so special, is the people, not the knives. And then the latest Benchmade, or most recent Benchmade to my collection, is the Benchmade OG M4 Freak. So this is by no stretch probably the longest Benchmade, the largest full-size Benchmade I have in my collection, and it is a full-size knife. It is a very able knife. It's a worker. It's there's nothing that I would not feel comfortable putting this knife up against, whether I was cutting paper, cutting cardboard, whether I was feather sticking in the woods, breaking down kindling for a fire. This knife you could put through pretty much any type of scenario that you could imagine. It fits good in the pocket. It has and comes with a deep carry clip, two-tone G10 scales with a little bit of a red liner there. I've seen some people who've modded theirs and added a red thumb stud. Again, I'm more Spyderco moddy, and certain Benchmades I'd mod. This one, if it came out with some different cool scales, I might think about jumping into it. But for now, it suits me just fine the way it is. And that is the Benchmade Freak, not the Mini Freak, the regular Freak, an M4. And that rounds out the current state of my Benchmade, made in the USA. Greatest warranty ever. You can send it back to them broken and they'll replace it. Knife collection, guys. It will change. Knives will come, knives will go. There are no Benchmades right now. I take that back. There's a little fixed blade. The tagged out is one that kind of draws my interest now that I watch Zach do the scale swap on it. So I'm sure there'll be Benchmades that come through the collection. So as they do, I will share them with you guys. I appreciate you stopping by the channel. I appreciate you every time you watch one of my videos. I appreciate the way you look out for each other. And then I ask that you look out for the guy or girl on your left. Look out for the guy or girl on your right. Continue to look out for each other. Move forward with love in your heart. When you disagree with somebody, which is very easy to do when we're talking about complex and not so complex situations, choose debate over hate, guys. Life is short. Play hard. Don't cut yourself. I love you all. Peace.